And also on Auricle, we provide recorded sessions in which the student will have the access of all the subjects anywhere, anytime through the recorded session. And it is right now only for the first year students. Then on Auricle, we provide notes with ultimate comprehensive book with CBME-based question answers, MCQs, and full zone for self-assessment. And on Auricle, we provide MCQs also, that is from beginner level to expert level, that consists standard multiple choice questions. Then also on Auricle, you can book a slot for personalized counseling session in which you will get the direct contact with the counselor. Then we also provide some subscription plan that are starting from basic to premium. So the basic plan is of 3 months, standard plan is of 6 months, and the premium plan is of 12 months. And in the premium plans, we provide all the services that is provided by Auricle, like pre-recorded classes, live class, live dot clarification, one-to-one personalized guidance, notes, quick revision examination module. And the premium plan is of 12 months and cost around 50,000. Or also for 20% instant discount, you can use my code, that is Aanchal 20. Now on Auricle, as we have started the series of blood, so today we are having first class over the composition function. Then we are having these various classes on 4th, 6th, 9th, 11th, and 13th April. So coming to the topic, today's topic, blood. So as we know that the blood is the fluid connective tissue that act as a vehicle to transport gases, nutrients, growth factor, immune cells to various parts of the body. And it is also involved in synthesis of various secretion of the body and bring about several important functions of the body that we're going to discuss one by one, right? So as we know that blood is a red color pigment that circulates through the vascular system in humans and in also in the other vertebrates, right? And it is responsible for carrying nutrients, oxygen, and waste product including CO2 from all parts of the body. So this blood is responsible for carrying nutrients, oxygen, waste product like CO2. Then talking about the properties, the different properties of the blood. So we know that the color of the blood is red. The volume is approximately in healthy under individual, it is 5 liter. The reaction, the pH we have 7.4, specific gravity range from 1.05 to 1.061, and viscosity, the viscosity of blood, it is 5 times more viscous than water. So before proceeding, we have a clinical case scenario and we're going to discuss it in the end of the session. So it is about a patient who is 55-year-old male patient present to the emergency department and complain of severe dehydration. So please note that this person is suffering from dehydration, means low water content present inside the body. He reports several episodes of vomiting, diarrhea over the past of 24 hours. Upon examination, he appeared lethargic, mucous membrane are dry, and his blood pressure is low. Now, the laboratory test revealed elevated BUN, blood urea nitrogen, and creatinine level indicate impaired kidney function. Now, given these clinical presentation, which are the following statement regarding fluid compartment is most accurate? So, the option we are having in this patient, the primary fluid compartment affected is the intracellular compartment. The observed symptoms suggest an increase in ECF volume. The patient condition is consistent with fluid overload in the interstitial fluid compartment. The observed symptoms are indicative of hypovolemia and contraction of the intravascular compartment. And the last we have the patient's clinical presentation is unrelated to alteration in fluid compartment. So this clinical case scenario we're going to discuss in the end of the session. Now we have the body composition. So we know in body composition, the protein unrelated substance are 80%, the fat is 15%, the mineral are 7%, and the water content is highest, that is 60%, right? Now, the water content is basically divided into two compartments, the extracellular and the intracellular. So, as the name suggests, intracellular means the fluid which is present inside the cells, and the extracellular, the fluid which is present outside the cells, right? So, it is the fluid which is present outside the cells, and it composes 1/3 volume of fluid inside the body, that is 33% of total body weight, and it contains ions and nutrients that are needed for the cellular life, that are needed for the various cellular activity and metabolism that occurs inside the body, right? Now, next we have intracellular, means the fluid which is present inside the cell. And talking about the percentage, so it is in 67%, and it composed of about 2/3 volume of total body fluids inside the body. Now, talking about the extracellular fluids, so various kind of extracellular fluids are present. So, as we know, it is 33% of total body weight. So, we have plasma, which is 25%, 5% of body weight, interstitial fluid, that is 75% of ECF and 15% of body weight. And also, we have some transcellular fluid like cerebrospinal fluid, intraocular fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid is present in brain, intraocular in eyes, then pleural we have, then peritoneum, then pericardial, synovial in joints, digestive secretions, pericardial around the heart, peritoneum around abdomen. So these are the various types of fluid that is the part of extracellular fluid. Okay, and talking about the intracellular fluid, so it is 2/3, then composed of 67% of total body weight and 40% of body weight. Now, we have an MCQ, that fluid compartment which is incorrect. The incorrect one they are asking. The extracellular fluid is 20% of body weight, intracellular fluid which is 40% of body weight, the plasma that is 25% of body weight, and interstitial fluid of 15% of body weight. Again, you have 10 seconds to answer, all the student. The answer is already highlighted. So as you can see, the plasma is 25% of ECF and 5% of body weight. So this is the incorrect one, and all rest are the correct statements. Now, how to calculate total body weight? Okay, how to calculate? So here is an example that how we can calculate the total body weight for a man who is 70 kg, right? So total body weight is equals to 60% of body weight. So 60% into 70, that will be 42 liter of water content present inside the body, the person who is of 70 kg. Now we have the difference between extracellular fluid and intracellular fluid. So as we know that various cations and anions are present inside the ECF and ICF, and also various nutrients are present, and also some waste products are present in ECF. Okay, so talking about the cations, we have sodium, potassium, magnesium, and anions we have chloride and bicarbonate. And talking about the nutrients, so we have O2, oxygen, glucose, fatty acids, amino acids, and waste product we have like CO2, urea, uric acid, excess water, and ions, right? And in ICF, in intracellular fluids, again we have the same anions, and cations are same like potassium, sodium, potassium, magnesium. In anions we have one extra, that is phosphate ion, and along with phosphate ion we have chloride and bicarbonate. And the nutrients, the high concentration of proteins is present in intracellular fluid. Now we're going to we're going to discuss that what are the factors that are responsible for affecting body fluids. What are those conditions in which the body fluids can be affected, right? So it will totally depend upon the water intake and output. If the body is, the person is taking sufficient amount of water, so ultimately the urine output will be normal. But if the water content inside the body, if is will be less, the person is taking less amount of water, so ultimately the urine output will be less. And also the condition like dehydration will occur inside the body. Then talking about the age, so in infants, in newborn, that the body fluids will be 73%, where in elderly person it will be 45%. Then talking about the difference of body fluids in male and female, so in adult male it will be 60%, and in female it is 40 to 50%, because the amount of fat, it is more present in female that compared to male. Then obesity, if the person is having, the person is obese, it is having the higher amount of fat, so ultimately the body fluids will be less. Climate, it will also depend that at what climate the person is living. Like if summers are there, so ultimately the sweating will be more, so ultimately the body fluids will be less. Then the type of habit, the habit includes the amount of water the person is taking, the person is doing any kind of exercise, or he or she is playing any kind of sports. So all these factors are also responsible for affecting the body fluids inside the body. Then next we have the level of physical activity. If the person is doing any kind of physical activity, it is also going to affect the body fluids inside the body. Right. Now, what are the control of body fluids? So obviously thrust, whenever the thrust will be induced, the person will take more amount of water. Sweating, then renal control with the help of the hormone that is known as aldosterone, which is secreted by adrenal gland. Then neural control is also there with the help of some osmoreceptors, and the role of baroreceptors is also very important. Now, what is dehydration? So dehydration is the loss of water from the body. And the example we have in the case of vomiting, diarrhea, sweating, polyuria. Polyuria is the condition in which there will be excess production of urine. Okay, and it leads to decrease in both ICF and ECF volume. Both the fluids will get decrease in the case if the person is suffering from this condition. And also increase in osmolarity. Osmolarity means the amount of solute that is present inside the fluid. So ultimately, if the water content will lose, so solutes will increase. So the osmolarity will increase in both ECF and ICF, and the symptom will have like dry tongue, loss of skin elasticity, soft eyeball, decrease in blood pressure, increase hemoglobin and packed cell volume. And treated with fluid replacement could be through orally or through intravenous. Now, the function of blood. So before discussing the function, we should also know some characteristics feature of blood. So in characteristics feature, we have first color. So we know the color is red. Then volume of blood means the amount of total volume that is present inside the healthy individual, that is 5 to 6 liter. And we have the pH. Now, to note down the pH is very important. It is 7.4. And talking about the viscosity, so we have the viscosity 5 times more viscous than water. And last we have specific gravity. So it is range from 1.052 to 1.061. Okay. So talking about the functions. So first we have It is a connective tissue in fluid form. So which blood is also a type of tissue, and it is a type of connective tissue because various type of cells are present in this. Now it is a fluid form of life. Why it is a fluid form of life? Because it carries oxygen, it transports oxygen to various part of the body, from lungs to all parts of the body, and also it is responsible for carrying carbon dioxide from all parts of the body to the lungs, and from the lungs it get eliminated out of the body. Then it is a fluid form of growth. Why it is known as fluid form of growth? Because it is responsible for carrying nutrient substances from digestive system and hormone from endocrine glands to all the tissue. So from absorption from intestine, it is the blood is responsible for absorption of various nutritive substances which are responsible for the growth of the person. Then it is a fluid of health. Why it is the fluid of the health? Because it protects the body against disease and get rid out of unwanted substances by transporting them into excretory organs like kidney. So as we know that the blood also carry WBC, and the WBC are responsible for the process of phagocytosis. Now, the physical characteristics, as we have discussed, it is thicker than water, 8% of total body weight. The blood volume is 5 to 6 liter in male, and it is lesser in female, that is 4 to 5 liter, and it is 70 ml per kg of body weight. The temperature is 100.4 Fahrenheit, and the pH range from 7.35 to 7.45. Now function, so various function we have discussed. Some more we have again the respiratory function, transport of oxygen from lungs to tissue, transport CO2 from tissues to lung. Then in nutrition we have the transport food from gut to tissues. Then in excretory, transport waste from tissues to kidney like urea and uric acid that get excreted in the urine. Then we have protective cells also like WBCs, and also body produce antibodies and antitoxins. Then we have regulatory function also. So blood is responsible for regulating body temperature, for regulating pH through the various buffers like bicarbonate buffer, phosphate buffer. Then coolant properties of water are there, vasodilation of surface vessels, dump heat. Then also it is responsible for regulating water content of cells by interaction with dissolved iron and proteins. Then body temperature, so water, high heat capacity, thermal conductivity, and heat of vaporization. So these are the technique by which it can also control body temperature. Then it is responsible for typical heat generation is 3000 kilocalorie per day. Then in blood, we have suspension of cells in plasma, which is a carrier fluid. So the cells are present, that is of 45%, and the plasma is 55% of total blood. So the cells we have RBC, WBC, and platelets. So as we can see in the Buffy coat, so this Buffy coat is we got it by the process known as centrifugation. So whenever we do the centrifugation of the blood, so over this we receive the plasma. In lower part we received RBC, and in Buffy coat we have WBC and the platelets, which is present in the mid portion. Okay, now this slide is very important because it is indicated that in blood plasma, in whole blood, we have blood plasma of 55% and formed elements, mean cells of 45%. And in blood plasma, we have 7% proteins. Water content is 91.5%, and some solutes are present, that is of 1.5%. Now in proteins, we have albumin, globulin, fibrinogen, and other. And these are the percentage. So the albumin is present in the highest amount, that is 54%, globulin 38%, and fibrinogen 7%, and rest are 1%. Then in electrolytes, that is of 1.5%, we have electrolytes. So in solutes, we have electrolytes, nutrients, gases, regulatory substances, vitamins, and some waste products. Then in formed elements, in cells we have platelets, WBC and RBC. In WBC, we have granulocytes as well as agranulocytes. So we have neutrophils, lymphocytes, monocytes, eosinophils, and basophils. And also the neutrophils are the most abundant, that is of 60 to 70%. The lymphocytes 20 to 25%, and monocytes 3 to 8%, eosinophils 2 to 4%, and basophil less than 1%. Now, the blood is straw-colored clear liquid that contains 90% of water, 7% of plasma protein, and plasma protein get created inside or synthesized inside liver and confined to bloodstream. In plasma protein, we have albumin, immunoglobulin, or fibrinogen. So, the main function of the albumin to maintain blood osmotic pressure. Immunoglobulin are responsible. Immunoglobulin is basically the gamma globulin. It is a type of gamma globulin. So it is responsible for antibodies bind to foreign substances called antigen and form antigen antibody complex, right? And immunoglobulins are basically responsible for fighting to the foreign substances which get inside the body, and the immunoglobulins are also known as antibodies. Now, the fibrinogen is responsible for the clotting process. And in rest 2%, we have nutrients, electrolytes, gases, hormone, and some waste products. So, in body, 90% is water, 7% is plasma protein, and 2% are other substances. Now, the function. So, we have the function of plasma protein. We have coagulation of blood, the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. And then we have defense mechanism of blood also. That is done by immunoglobulin, which is a form of globulin. Then transport mechanism. In transport mechanism, the alpha globulin, beta globulin, and transport hormone, gases, and some enzymes. Then the maintenance of osmotic blood pressure is very important, and that is done by albumin. Then a plasma protein is also responsible for acid-base balance, because plasma proteins are amphoteric in nature, and depending upon the condition, they can act as acid as well as base. Okay. Then also this is responsible for providing viscosity to blood, and also it provides suspension stability to RBC also. And it is also responsible for reservation of protein, right? Then in form elements, as we have discussed, we have RBC, WBC, and platelets. In WBC, we have granulocytes and agranulocytes. In granulocytes, we have neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils. In agranulocytes, we have lymphocytes and monocytes. In lymphocytes, we have T cells, B cells, and natural killer cells. And also the platelets are spatial cell fragments. Why they are cell fragments? Why they are known as? Because a very big cell that is known as megakaryocyte, whenever this cell gets split, so by this cell, various cell fragments are formed, and those cell fragments are known as platelets. So platelets are also known as spatial cell fragments. Okay. So this is all about the formed elements of blood. Then we have a MCQ, and all you have 10 seconds to answer. A granular leukocytes are which of the following? Neutrophils, eosinophils, lymphocytes, and basophil. The answer is already highlighted, but still I'm giving you 10 seconds to just read it once. Yes, the answer is lymphocyte. Okay, now the function of RBC. So RBC is responsible for the transport of oxygen as well as for the transport of CO2. So transport of oxygen from lungs to the tissue in the form that is known as oxyhemoglobin. So whenever the hemoglobin can combine with oxygen, that time it is known as oxyhemoglobin. Then transport of carbon dioxide from tissue to lungs, that is known as carbaminohemoglobin. So whenever the blood or the hemoglobin can combine with CO2, that time it is known as carbaminohemoglobin. And one more thing is also there, that is known as carboxyhemoglobin. So don't get confused with this term. Carboxyhemoglobin means whenever carbon monoxide get combined with hemoglobin, so that time it is known as carboxyhemoglobin. And carbaminohemoglobin means hemoglobin get combined with CO2. Now, hemoglobin acts as a buffer and regulate hydrogen ion concentration in acid-base balance, that also already we have learned in renal physiology. Then it also carried the blood group antigen and RH factor, which is responsible for determining the type of blood group that is present with the individual. Okay, so RBC, over the surface of the RBC, the antigen, the various type of antigen are responsible, which going to determine the blood group of the person. And then the function of the neutrophil. So it is the first line of defense against invading microorganism, right? It is the first line of defense. First line of defense means it is going to act firstly. Then it is a powerful, effective killer machine which contain enzyme like protease, elastase, metalloproteinase, then NADPH oxidase, antibody-like substances called defensins. Now, what is defenses? Defense is a type of protein. These are the antimicrobial peptide active against any type of foreign bacteria like foreign pathogen like bacteria and fungi. Then neutrophils also secrete platelet aggregation factor, PAF, and this is very, very important, and we're going to learn the importance of PAF in the platelets, okay? The chapter of platelets. Basically, this accelerates the aggregation of platelets during injury to the blood vessels. So whenever we're going to study a mechanism that is known as hemostasis, so in hemostasis, we're going to learn three processes: activation, aggregation. So in that, we're going to learn the function of PAF also. Then the function of eosinophils. So eosinophils are responsible for basically the allergic reactions. So it secretes lethal substances at the time of exposure to foreign proteins and parasites. So we have eosinophils peroxidase, which destroy worms, bacteria, and tumor cells. Major basic protein we have which damage parasites. Then we have eosinophilic catenic protein, ECP, which destroy helminths. And we have eosinophil derivative neurotoxins, which is responsible for destruction of the nerve fibers, mainly myelinated nerve fibers. Then we have the function of basophil. So basophil granules release some substances like histamine, heparin, hyaluronic acid, and protease. So histamine, basically they are very, very much reactive in acute hypersensitivity reaction, vascular changes, increased capillary permeability, and heparin. As we know, heparin is a natural anticoagulant that is present inside the body. So it is responsible for the prevention of intravascular blood clotting. And we have hyaluronic acid, which is necessary for the deposition of ground substances in basement membrane. Then last we have proteases that are exudate in the case of inflammation. Then basophil have IgE receptors that are responsible for the hypersensitivity reaction inside the body. Then we have the function of platelets. So one by one, we're going to discuss all these cells in the various classes. Just now we are having the introduction part in which we are discussing the important headlines, right? So the function of platelets, we have blood clotting, clot retraction. Clot retraction means the 40% reduction in the size of the clot. That is clot retraction. Then platelets are also responsible for the defense mechanism. Then it is also responsible for the process of hemostasis. Then it is also responsible for the repair and rupture of blood vessels. Then gas transport. So continuous interchange of CO2 and O2 occurs between lungs and tissue, and oxygens are the major electron acceptor, and they are the indispensable for ATP production also. And when talk about the CO2, so they are the major byproduct of energy metabolism. Then in pH maintenance, we have oxygen, which releases, in pH maintenance, oxygen release, which helps to maintain pH in tissues. And we have this reaction in which hemoglobin get combines with O2 to form oxyhemoglobin, and hydrogen ion will be produced. So in tissue, CO2 form proton and bicarbonate. Proton is bound to HP when O2 is released, and bicarbonate leaves RBC. Then we have chloride and bicarbonate interchange, that is known as Hamburger effect, that we're going to study in detail. So the hemoglobin, higher ability of hemoglobin to release O2, but lower ability to bind with O2, that we're going to learn in the ODC, that is known as right shift. Useful at site of O2 release, in which there will be higher temperature, higher 2,3 BPG level, and low pH, that will be covered under the board effect. That all we're going to learn in hemoglobin in RBC. In various chapter we're going to learn. Now, MCQ we have useful at site of O2 tissue except higher temperature, higher 2,3 BPG level, lower pH under Bow effect or right shift. 10 seconds I'm giving you. Yes, the answer is right shift. Now, CO2 transport. So, bicarbonate formation within RBC and chloride interchange will occur, and there will be CO2 dissolved in blood plasma, and there will be carbamino formation. Means hemoglobin will combine with CO2 here. So in the summary, it is a type of connective tissue. It contains living and non-living components. The purpose is to transport nutrients and waste throughout body. It also delivered O2, remove metabolic waste, maintenance temperature, pH and fluid, protective from blood loss, platelets. Then it also prevent infection, antibody and WBC, and also it's responsible for the transport of hormones. So we have a clinical case scenario, and again, we're going to discuss the most important function of the blood. So as we have discussed this case, so again, I'm repeating that this person is complaining the severe dehydration, and dehydration is occurring due to vomiting and diarrhea. And examination, the purpose is lethargic and mucous membrane is dry, which is again the symptoms of dehydration. And the blood pressure is low due to blood volume, low blood volume. Then laboratory investigation shows elevated BUN and creatinine levels, and both are indicating the kidney functions are impaired. So statement which is accurate, so it will be D, because the observed symptoms are indicative of hypovolemia, means low blood volume, and contraction of the intravascular compartment. So the most appropriate is D. Okay. So again, we're going to discuss a short summary about blood. So we have blood, which is a red colored fluid that circulate through vascular system, right? Then properties already we have discussed. We have color red, volume we have 5 liter, and in newborn the volume is 450 ml, right? And it increases during growth and reaches 5 liter at the time of puberty. Okay, and it in males it is 5 liter, 5 to 6 liter, and in females it is approximately 4 to 4.5 liter. Okay. Now the pH we have 7.4, which is slightly basic, and it should remain as it is. Then specific gravity we have. Then last we have viscosity. So these are the important things that all of you should remember. Right? Now, next we have the various type of blood cells. So blood cells we have RBC, erythrocytes, leukocytes, and thrombocytes. right? Then we have plasma. The cells are formed elements are only 45% and the plasma is 55%. So what is plasma? It is a straw colored clear fluid in the blood. Okay, and it contains 91% of water and 9% of solids. Right? Now, another thing we have, that is serum. So what is serum? Serum is again a clear straw colored fluid that oozes from blood clot. Very important thing, must to remember. So whenever the blood is shed or collected in a container, it clots, right? So in this process, the fibrinogen is get converted into fibrin and the blood cells are trapped in the fibrin forming the blood clot, okay? And about 45 minutes, serum oozes out of the blood clot, okay? So this is all about serum and we have a formula to find out serum. It is plasma minus clotting factor, or we can write down fibrinogen. So this is about serum. Okay. Now the functions we have, functions of blood. So first we have nutritive function. So nutritive substances like glucose, like amino acids, like lipids, vitamins, derived from digestive fluid are absorbed from GI tract and carried by blood to different part of the body for growth and the production of energy. Now next we have the respiratory function. So as we know that blood is responsible for carrying both O2 as well as CO2, right? So transport of respiratory gas is done by the blood. It carries oxygen from alveoli of lungs to different tissues and carbon dioxide from tissues to alveoli, okay? Then next we have excretory function. So we know waste product formed inside the tissue due to various metabolic activity that occurs inside the body. So waste products are removed by blood and carried to the excretory organ, like those excretory organ like kidney, like skin, like liver, okay, for the excretion. Then next we have transport of hormones and enzymes. So hormones which are secreted by endocrine glands, right, are released directly into the blood and the blood responsible for the transport of those hormones to their target organ and tissues. Okay, and blood is also responsible for transporting various enzymes. Then we have regulation of water balance, right? So the blood also helps in the regulation of water content inside the body. Whenever the amount of water content decreases, so ultimately the urine output also decreases. Then regulation of body temperature. So as we know, because of the high specific heat, the blood is responsible for maintaining the thermoregulatory mechanism inside the body. That is the balance between heat loss and heat gain. Okay. Then last we have the storage function. So as we know, water and some important substances like protein, like glucose, sodium, potassium are constantly required by the tissues which is present inside the body. So blood serve as a ready-made source for these substances, and these substances are taken from blood during the condition like starvation or whenever there is any kind of fluid loss or electrolyte loss. And last we have the defensive function. So as we know, we have very important cells that are known as leukocytes. So blood plays important role in the defense of the body also. The white blood cells are responsible for this function, and neutrophils and monocytes are responsible for the phagocytosis, or they engulf the bacteria by phagocytosis, and lymphocytes are responsible in the development of immunity, and eosinophils are responsible for the process of detoxification, deintegration, and removal of foreign proteins. Okay, so this is all about the function of blood. So I hope this is now clear to all the student. And still, if you have any kind of doubt, so you can connect to us through various platform like Auricle official on through app, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Telegram. Thank you so much.